Hello, good day, and welcome to Beyond the Role Leadership Unboxed. Today, I'm joined by Tim Shaw. Thank you so much, Tim, for joining me and agreeing to do this. So, background, I met Tim at one of our career fairs at the university that I go to, and during our conversation, I realized that his grandfather, right? Had been in Zimbabwe for some time and he was also working for a tobacco company. And I also used to work for a tobacco company, and that then helped us like to start conversation around tobacco, around Zimbabwe, and around leadership and around a lot of things. So I then just asked him, would you mind to come to the episode and share your experience, because it's quite an exciting or a very great experience that we can all learn from. So as I am not a very stingy person, I have then invited him so that we get to share these nuggets together. So, Tim, once again, welcome to Beyond the Role Leadership Unboxed.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I will say that was quite an interesting first encounter where I met hundreds of students that day, and I remembered our conversation because I thought it was so cool that you're doing this kind of podcast, and
Yeah,
of course I was excited that you asked me to join. So hopefully it's of value to some people. But I went to that career fair thinking this isn't part of my job description, but I just want to help young professionals,
great.
and this came out of it. So I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So if you're to introduce yourself, Tim, to someone who doesn't know you, how would you, or if you want someone to introduce you, how would you want them to introduce you?
Yeah, so in professional settings, I usually tell people I'm a marketer and a product manager, and I became a product manager because I really cared about the journey that customers go on.
Mhm.
So what makes me unique is a deep sense of customer empathy that I've learned to tailor with data-driven storytelling,
Yeah.
and then a big picture mindset. So in every one of my job interviews so far, that's landed me a role in product management. That seems to resonate. But it's
Mhm.
also true that I developed each of those skills at different steps along my career path,
Yeah.
and kind of learned to recognize my strengths and kind of pull them all together and make the right connections.
Mhm. I think it's also like a rare skill to have that balance between empathy and also at the same time drive data-driven decisions, because it's sometimes it feels as if some of the data-driven decisions that we have do not have like the human face, like there's no empathy there. It's just probably Excel sheets. It's just this what is it called? It's just dashboards that do not have like a human face to it. So it's great that you mentioned like a balance between empathy and data-driven decision making. So what inspired you to move to product management or to be in this career that you're in?
Yeah, so I remember our initial conversation where you're coming from was you're doing a graduate degree in data and marketing, right?
Yep.
And you asked me about my pivot into product management. So in specific, I was in a marketing and PR background when I decided to get my MBA.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a very general MBA focused on marketing and focused on sustainability initiatives and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I got into my internship and I worked for a major auto manufacturer in the luxury segment. And I was working on dashboards. I worked in Tableau, and I worked on insights on click-through rates and all of this sort of thing. And I thought, this feels faceless almost.
Yeah.
The data isn't inspiring me, although some of the challenges gave me, my curiosity was piqued, but the data seemed detached almost. And
Mm-hmm.
I looked for a way to get beyond performance marketing, and I said, I think if I was closer to the product and the user, then I could see that really being more of an inspiring challenge. So once you get there, you still have a lot of questions to answer
Yeah.
about what sorts of products or what sorts of problems are we solving, right? But I think that for me, the recognition that there was this form of marketing, performance marketing or brand, whatever you want to call it, that
Mhm.
didn't quite scratch the itch, but I think I found that when I got into product. Did that answer your question adequately?
Yes, it does. From what I got from it is the transition came from like that challenge of being in a space where you're working with it's just faceless. But as a person who's an empathetic leader, um, you were then driven more to be in a space where you can also influence change at
Yeah.
the same time, influence change, make data-driven decisions, but at the same time with a human face.
Yeah. Well, I want to be careful too,
Yeah.
because you don't just abandon data or like I don't use it anymore in my job today.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that the way that you phrased your question is revealing quite a bit that there's this almost competition, right? And that's because I think people tend to favor or put more stock in quantitative data,
Yeah.
where in reality, what someone tells you about a product in one interaction, that's a data point that can drive decisions. Um, the
Mhm.
way that you feel about your job when you leave work on a Thursday, that's also data and that also matters. And
Mhm.
so I think that there's a recognition that for me in that instance, it was um, not just difficult for me to see where my impact was,
Mhm.
but difficult for me uh, to really keep investing in that side of the data. Right? I'm still curious about that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and big data can tell a lot of stories if you ask it the right questions. And I love asking good questions, and you get better stories when you're actually talking to people instead of just gathering data feeds from your meta analysis or your Google search ads and that sort of thing. Does that make sense? So yeah,
Yes.
I guess coming full circle, you're right. I got more excited about the interesting stories that come from the very user focused data, I guess.
Mhm. I think that's also the reason why we're here. Stories
Yeah.
really do inspire people, and they also make people see that it's actually achievable, it's actually doable. Because at times, like when you're sitting and you're applying for jobs, and then you just see, oh, product manager, and then you see all those roles and responsibilities, you're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to fit my shoes into that? But probably you actually have the skills that are required for that. So when you hear someone who's in that path or who is in that career sharing what the day-to-day life is, you then get to understand, oh, I can actually do this. It's not just the big words that are there on the job description. I can actually fit this job description. So thank you so much for sharing
Yeah.
what you just shared about having that human face and having that those stories, they actually change the way that we see things and the way that we think. Um, you mentioned your day to day. What kind of challenges are you currently facing in your current role, if any, and how are you tackling this? If,
Yeah. So that also came up in our initial conversation, and it's an interesting uh, dynamic where you think you found where you belong, and then you find that there's more to it, right?
yeah.
So I found my path into product management, and
Mm-hmm.
I was in a. I promise I'm getting to the answer about what challenges I'm facing now.
Yeah.
Um, and in product management, it depends on what organization you're in, and the day to day can depend on very much uh, the challenges that you're trying to address. So in my previous product management role, we were like a $1.5 billion a year division,
Mm-hmm.
and there were 6 or 8 product lines. So there were 6 or 8 product managers, uh, and there were only like 3 marketers because it wasn't a marketing driven product line. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I made the transition to the organization I'm in now
Mm-hmm.
thinking I want to get closer to the end user. There's a much more diverse marketing arm in the business that I'm in now, right?
Yeah.
And even then, when I landed here, I realized that there's still so much to do with new product development and processes arranged sort of in an internal facing realm. And
Mm-hmm.
then there's so much marketing to be done in an external facing realm.
Yeah.
And I said, man, I would really love to be leaning into more of the external facing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
As interested as I am in working with engineers on next generation products, this seems to be an opportunity that this organization needed help with and much better suited to my strengths. And the challenge then is we have a ton of processes defined for how to make and build new products.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have really concrete processes for how we go to market. And how we go to market is often different depending on what the product is.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you all of that because not even an hour ago, I was on a very difficult phone call about how are we going to go to market with this. And it's next to impossible sometimes to plan every bit of your marketing the
Mm-hmm.
way that you plan every bit of your new product development because things shift, things change. So I guess the answer in short is defining a process that's new is a really challenging thing for anybody.
Yeah.
So it's also a huge opportunity where I feel really lucky to be right where I'm at, where the possibilities are kind of open to show us what you got, see what fits, what lands, and be willing to just roll with whatever you're handed,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and admit like, hey, we got this one wrong. Let's change the process a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's somewhat discomforting, but also really exciting. You know.
Yeah, I feel the same. I think with some of the classes that I take, like it's it's oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? But at the same time, like, oh, I'm up for the challenge. I'm going to
Yeah,
bring
this will be good. I'm not sure how it's going to work out, but I'm sure it'll be good.
this will be good because I think like once you have come up with a solution to that challenge, or once you have reached that end, um, it's quite exciting to then look back and be like, oh, damn. So when I was in this stage, I was like, we can't, it's impossible. But then, like, after you've passed it, it's really quite exciting to then, like, overcome all those challenges.
Right.
And be sure and stretching yourself as well. I believe that there's a lot of stretching yourself. There's a lot of patience that also required from
Right.
self and as well as from people that you're working with, because I believe that people are also coming up with different ideas on how to tackle it and how to go forward with it. So my follow-up question would then be, in your current role, how do you balance between what data is saying and what your intuition is saying? Because probably there's something that you have learned before from experience. You have been in a certain role and you've worked on it this way, but then in this role that you are in, it's a different way of doing it, or the data is saying something that's different and it's not aligning with your experience. How do you navigate around that?
Um, it's a great question. I think I might not answer it directly enough, but it goes back to what I said earlier about the stock that people put in certain kinds of data,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, and first of all, recognizing I don't trust my intuition to say I've done this before. I'm doing stuff that I've never done before,
Yeah.
and you have to, I think, first remind people, hey, this is the job, this is the work. We're gonna figure this out.
Mm-hmm.
And I would really like for someone to tell me what we're supposed to do next. The data, everyone wants the data to tell them what to do next, right? So I think it comes with leaning into, I have an idea. It could be, let's see if the data supports the idea, right?
Yeah.
But um, it could also be wrong. And
Mhm.
and the people that say, I talked about defining a process, right?
Yeah.
It's the same mindset that says we don't have a defined process, where I want to fit it into a very clear cut process. same mindset says, oh, well, this is what the data says, we should trust that, right? Um, I think it's confronting the discomfort of,
Mhm.
uh, yeah, the data can tell you a lot of things, and it can tell you the wrong idea in a lot of cases too.
Yeah,
I'm not saying there's not a good example right now of what we're doing that is data driven, and I disagree with it. I think it's more that the lack of data makes people uncomfortable.
that makes people uncomfortable. That's so true.
Yeah.
That's so true. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I can totally relate. I think the point that I like the most is when you said you don't trust your intuition because there's things that you have done before are not necessarily things that are being done now or how they are being done now. So they need to have that appreciation of moving from, yeah, the old and this is the new, and what is it that I'm bringing to the new with me, and how do I balance the new and the old? That's quite insightful.
Yeah, I think one of the deepest insights, I picked this up somewhere in my career, maybe 8 or 9 years ago, and I put it on a post-it note, stuck
Mm,
it to my monitor, and it was a boss, or maybe he was quoting someone. I don't have an attribution, but it was opportunities are buried in the questions. And so
yeah.
my data driven focus is, are we asking the right question yet?
Yeah.
Uh, and if we're asking the right question, then usually you get to the right insight. And so my intuition, when do I start to trust it, is when I start to feel like, okay, this feels like the right question to ask. Then we go get the data or whatever. Or if the data tells us something that we're not sure we trust,
Mhm.
let's ask better questions, right?
Yeah. So the foundation is asking the right question.
Yeah, for sure. I think anyone in data and insights uh, can teach you or will tell you, oh, this is cutting edge for this or that type of technique and the process or the tools. But the thing that can't replace a skilled practitioner or a human being
Mhm.
is the intuition to ask the right questions.
The intuition to ask the right questions. Thank you for sharing that. Um, what common myth or misconception about your career that you wish people understood about product managers?
Okay, well, I don't know if there are any myths or misconceptions out there about Tim Shaw's product management career, right?
Yeah.
Uh, but let's get one thing real clear. Um, I didn't have a plan, and I still don't know what I want to do. Or rather, I don't think that I don't think that what I wanted would have gotten me where I am now. But
Mhm.
um, one of the things in my personal life and in my profession that I've really started to embrace not that long ago is just the mindset of what happened was meant to happen, and I can know that for sure because it's already happened, right? So going back 15 years ago in my career, I got into a job, and this was I had dropped out of my undergraduate program. I didn't finish my undergraduate degree the first go around, and I had quit a job that I really liked to go
Mhm.
pursue something else, and it felt right
Yeah.
until it didn't. And then I was like, why was I supposed to be? Felt like this was the move, right?
Yeah.
And I really laid awake at night asking myself why often.
Mhm.
And now I can trace every good thing in my career back to that moment, including I used that defining moment in that part of my career as like I used it in my MBA applications all the time. I talked about it in job interviews, like what really matters to me
Mhm.
today
Mhm.
happened then, and it was meant to happen.
It was meant to happen.
But then every step along the way has opened a new path for me, and not at all by my own design or my own ambition.
Mm,
I ended up in a career in a place that I didn't plan to live, and and I can tell you with 100% certainty, if nothing else, I was supposed to meet this person at this job at this time, and those things happen all over the place. So it's not reckless, but it's complete surrender. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, it is. Like I told you, I transitioned from social work to data analytics, and
Mm-hmm.
there are moments when I'm thinking, and I'm just like, I should have been a social worker probably with so many years of experience now.
Sure.
And probably I would have gone like up the ladder from as opposed to where I am. Was this the right decision? But then, like as you said, as you go day to day and meeting different people in the fields that you have now taken, you're just like, oh, so this is why I am here, and this is
Yeah.
why I am doing this.
Yeah. I don't know if I mentioned this to you before, but I had a really good tidbit of advice come my way.
Hmm.
Um, I went to, during my graduate degree program, I went through like a almost speed dating kind of event with marketing executives where it wasn't interviews. This was not recruiting. This was organized by one of the faculty members, and they were just friends of his that were
Hmm.
willing to sit down with students, but very senior people. Like
Yep.
I was with CMOs of certain large organizations, and they had panels, but they also had this one-on-one time.
Hmm.
And and I'm going to relate it to your social work thing because this one lady told me, "Hey, I see on your resume down here at the bottom it says that you're a foster parent. Tell me what that means to you."
Yep.
And my wife and I got certified, and we foster parented for like maybe 2 years before I went to graduate school. And we took a break. We picked it back up afterwards. We've had a handful of foster placements, and decided that we're not doing it anymore. Actually, now taught me was this trauma informed parenting shows up everywhere. Uh,
Hmm.
and I think in your case, right, you maybe haven't found exactly why you belong in the business world or where you'll land, but
Yeah.
I'm sure because of sad, sorry experience that there are people in your office, wherever you go, who
Hmm.
are going to be hurting and not know how to talk to somebody. And they might have a therapist too.
Yep.
And they just need someone, you know, they need people at an executive level that have the kind of empathy that you've developed. So
True.
lean into that. That was her advice to me in this one-on-one coaching session was figure out how you're going to talk about that. The way that I just described it to you,
Yeah.
that came out of her recognition that I'm so glad that she gave me that advice was um, you show up differently because of that. And people need to know that about you. Uh,
Hmm.
so yeah, when we first met, I think it sounded like you are in this data driven type of graduate program and not quite sure why. And I said, don't let that limit you. That's not what you're all about. If you want to do product management, of course you can get a product manager job. Uh,
Hmm.
Same thing is if you decide you want to go back to social work, that's fine too.
Hmm.
But you take that with you into whatever you get into next.
That's true.
Yeah.
So true. That's actually so profound. I'm like, oh my gosh. Thank you so much for sharing that nugget. So profound. You mentioned foster parenting. How do you balance your day to day? You mentioned a wife. That means you have your husband. How do you balance husband, career, foster parenting, and other things that you have not shared that you do like?
I don't have any answers for that except I don't. I'm being sincere, and anyone who tells you that they've got the answer is just kidding themselves. But I think that I struggle often with where I place my energy. I think all of us do with
Yeah.
just general distraction and that kind of thing. The hardest thing in my family has been me not liking my job.
Yep.
And the hardest thing at my job is me coming to work with things not right in my family.
I see.
And we're still working through that, right? And going back to the whole conversation on data or challenges at work, like that is the work. That's just life. I've learned to accept that, but
Mm-hmm.
also being keenly aware. Um, it's really helpful to be able to say, I really like where I'm at. My
Yeah.
job is going well, and
Mm-hmm.
and the people that you love, they ought to be happy for you that you can say that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, good luck to anyone who's looking for answers on how to balance work and family. Um, but that's the work. That's life.
I'm glad that you're Cynthia and there's authenticity in what you're sharing because someone would have jumped to, oh yeah, you know what? Like it's 30% work, 30% effort work, 70% with the family and 10%, and people play with
Yeah,
numbers.
no,
You're
no.
looking at your life, you're like,
I'm getting it wrong all the time. Don't ask me for advice on how to balance it. And I kid you not. That's right. I get it wrong all the time.
I think we all get it wrong all the time, and that is what makes us human, and that's what makes us human, and that's what's exciting about being human.
Yeah.
Thank you for being authentic.
Yeah. My pleasure, of course.
Um, do you have any current project or a project that or initiative that you have been part of that you are proud and what is that you're proud of and what is the impact that it might have had?
I mean, I'm proud of my children, the way that they're growing up, the the things that they're learning. I'm proud of some things that I've done in my career that nobody's going to talk about anymore. Uh, I'm I'm excited about some of the things that are creating energy for me and drawing me in.
Mhm.
That to me feel like they exist already and they're not quite here yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's so much room for impact. I think in this mindset shift. I've been thinking a lot about burnout for a long time now, actually.
Mhm.
So probably something that you can sense when I talk about where you belong in the social worker and
Yeah.
business type of space, right? And so I think that the proudest thing for some people is just that they're still showing up, um,
Yeah.
and and I think that someday I'll feel really proud of the contribution that I can make in that space too.
Mhm.
So I don't know. We can get into more specifics if you want. Ask me a good follow up question. I'm proud of the conversations that I have with friends more
Yeah.
than anything else. I,
Mhm.
I I don't hang my hat on any sales objectives or key marketing initiatives that I've landed. Uh, I'm not that proud of any of that stuff.
Mhm.
Just more proud that when someone was like, "Man, this sucks," I've been like, "Yeah, I understand," and some of those conversations are the most meaningful part of the work.
That's
So
so true. That's so true. Um, it's like in those small moments that you get meaning of life or meaning of anything. It's
yeah,
the small conversations really.
yeah. So I guess um, I'll be more authentic. I get the thing that I'm most proud of lately is um, at this conference that I was at just this week. More than one person, two to be exact, came to me in a conversation out of the blue and said, "Hey, by the way, I've read some of your LinkedIn posts and I really appreciate what you're doing."
Yeah.
And almost almost whispered in between the lines like, "Hey, keep doing that," right?
Yeah.
And they're both men of about my same age
Mm-hmm.
in the same stage of life with young kids in a career.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just put out there like, "Hey, this is what's going on in my head when this came up."
Yeah.
And for me, writing it down is a good part of processing it.
Yeah.
And that's why I said I think that the pride that I have and the impact that I have is still coming, still future facing. It feels like that's calling almost. So right now it's just a little side project. It's just putting myself out there. I don't know. Maybe I'll reflect back and this podcast episode goes viral and that becomes my proudest accomplishment too. Really like I really like talking to people and connecting with
Mhm.
people in meaningful conversations about what matters to them. And I want to encourage people to do that more. And in their careers, that can be difficult because it's loaded with ambition and politics. I mean, like office
This
politics, not
politics, yeah.
not 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 government politics, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there came a point in my career where I got to where I thought I wanted to be, and I was like, these are all regular, normal people. I was so ambitious to get into that room, right? And I don't know, maybe I'm delusional, but I'm at the point in my career now where it's like, I don't care if you're the CEO of my company.
True.
I'll talk to you like a normal human being because I recognize we're all just normal human beings. Does
True.
that make sense?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's why I say the real impact is just in those conversations often.
I'm also working through to get my head to recognize and appreciate that we are all human despite the title that a person holds. That's also the other reason for this podcast to say, or I
Yeah,
can then become comfortable in spaces where I'm talking to product managers.
I
So,
I could tell that as soon as you introduced me to the podcast. I was like, yeah, I want to be part of that. That sounds really cool. That's what I'm all about. Like
yeah.
uh, beyond the role, I get what you mean. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's also something that you mentioned, that you're proud of, like those projects or things that you did in your career that went probably unmentioned. Like there are certain things, I'm a person who wants people to recognize what they have done and verbally appreciate, to say, oh yeah, you did this, well done. That will keep
Yeah.
going. But
Yeah.
whenever you're in corporate or in this day and age, people are fighting to see another day. So no one has time to look back and be like, oh yeah, well done on that. So
Yeah.
during my summer internship, I struggled a lot because initially the first, I think 3 4 weeks, my supervisor and I, we had not really then understood each other because it was virtual. So I think she also didn't understand that I'm that person who wants to have that, or thumbs up, well done, you're doing the right thing. So at some point I'm like, I need to have a call, and we had a call, and on the call, I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm doing the right thing. She's like, what do you mean? You're doing great. And I'm like, but you've not said it. And then she's like, should I be saying it? So I really understand, like when you say things that you have done, you're proud of every bit of it that you have done. So I also then started
I
unlearning.
didn't say that. I didn't say I'm proud of every bit of what I've done.
Oh, I might have misheard that.
No, I find that very interesting based on what you said just
Yeah.
now, that you
Mhm.
need to hear it.
Yeah.
I, I feel so strongly that what you just said is so let's unpack that if we can. Um, I'm proud of almost nothing that I've done. but at the same time, proud of where I am. Does
Mm-hmm.
that make sense? Like I can't point to anything and
Mm-hmm.
say that I'm really proud of that.
I
But what is meaningful
mm-hmm.
is that nothing goes to waste, I guess. Does
Yeah,
that make sense? I
exactly.
also think that inherent in some of what you said is like underscores the message that I shared before that I didn't think that we would keep on hitting on, and that is like what is data and what do
Mm-hmm.
people count as real data, right? Well, real data in your career or in your success, right, would be increased sales of this product by X% over this period of time, right?
Yeah.
That's real data to some people.
Mm-hmm.
But in our day-to-day life, the data is I was chosen, right? Like feeling chosen is exactly what you want when
Mm-hmm.
you're looking for reassurance.
Yeah.
So for some people, you know what? Getting the job, that's the proudest moment. And
Yeah.
then never actually deliver, and they constantly live in fear that their boss doesn't like them. And they
Mm-hmm.
want their boss to prove to them that they still are chosen for that role, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where we're really getting at. I think what the purpose of this podcast
Yeah.
is. So again, that's why, um, yeah, feeling proud in accomplishments means very little after you get to that point. Feeling like you matter and feeling like you can make a difference is a different story.
Yeah.
But um, focusing on the accomplishments, I don't know. Maybe I'm shooting myself in the foot, and anyone who sees this doesn't give me a job opportunity in the future because it sounds like I don't do anything. But none of that matters, or it's here today and gone tomorrow, and nobody talks about it anymore.
That's
That
true.
actually was my answer when you said what are you most proud of. I said I don't know. I've probably done some things, but they don't matter anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And um, yeah, some of those things I could dig them up. Especially if this was a job interview, I would have dug those proof points up, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, what really matters is that you keep showing up, that your boss keeps telling you that you matter,
Mm-hmm.
and there are problems to be solved, and you have the energy and the capacity and the tools to
Mm-hmm.
do it, right? That's success is fleeting though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for unpacking that and clarifying it.
So it's so interesting to me that you heard me say that I've done a lot that I'm proud of or something along those lines. And I was like, no, I don't
I
feel
mean,
that at all.
it was along the lines of there are small things that I have done, and I am proud of those small things that I did in my career.
Probably was at some
Yeah.
point proud of things. And I don't, yeah, none of that anymore, I guess.
Yeah. Moving on, I'm not sure if you have a mentor or believe in the whole mentorship spectrum or side of things.
I do. So, yes, there are people that I could give a shout out to. For instance, this one mentor. I graduated my MBA in 2020, and the pandemic destroyed all of my chances for a full-time job.
Yeah.
So, I relied heavily on one mentor for that period of time
Mm,
from graduation in like May until I finally called him to tell him I landed a job offer around Thanksgiving time, November of that year. So it was a long time, and he helped me go all the way through this kind of self discovery, listening to my pitch
mm,
and revamping my resume with me. So in terms of career advice, yeah, I got mentored, and I could give a shout out to him. His name is Warren Ellish. He's also the guy that organized that career fair mentoring thing that
mm,
I described to you, where his marketing executive friends came to campus for 2 days of student engagement,
yeah.
not for any openings, not for any jobs, just to get us FaceTime with real people. Um, and since then, I think my answer is I believe the biggest mentor is just being present with people. So this conversation, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
has taught me things that I didn't think before or couldn't verbalize,
Yeah.
wasn't crystal clear.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the conversations that you have with anybody can be your best learning opportunity. So as far as mentor, it's everyone.
It's
Uh,
everything.
it's moment to moment. Yeah. And I love being a mentor as well. So when we met at that career fair, I was like, I'm not hiring. I want to tell people about our company. I think that's fun.
Mm-hmm.
I was also in it for like when I was in undergrad and when I was in grad school. I wish someone had come that just was willing to listen and help out, right? So I kind of approached it with that attitude. Uh, I told one of your classmates, "Hey, man, your belt loop, you missed a belt loop in the back. I want you to have a good day. Go fix that." Right?
Yeah.
Uh, so that's how I went into that. Was just I don't know. We'll see what these people need,
Mm-hmm.
and um, being willing to be a mentor can teach you a lot of things about people as well.
That's true. That's so true. And this is where it has gotten us.
Yeah, yeah. Again, my energy is high because I feel like the conversation is going really well. I enjoy this kind of thing immensely.
Um,
Hopefully, valuable as well.
you're sharing profound nuggets. I think I'll then be taking notes. Like after this, when I listen back, I'll then just be writing notes. Like, oh, profound. If you were to meet your younger self today or now, what would you tell them? What advice would you give them?
um, I think it goes back to that notion of surrender, right? It would be, um, hey, some things are going to happen, and it's going to suck. uh, I also, my younger self was obsessed with being right, um, getting the right answer on tests,
Mhm.
and getting good grades, and afraid to be wrong.
Yeah.
And some of the things that have happened in my career were like just picking up the pieces after something went totally sideways. And again, that's the more meaningful part of it,
Yeah.
right? Continuing on. I think my younger self would have been shattered to learn that I wouldn't have a good answer for you when you asked me what I'm most proud of, or my younger self would have felt this need for acceptance, and acceptance that only comes from being right. I guess I would have tried to tell that young kid to drop the act, but he needed to learn that the way that he learned it. So yeah, can influence um, can influence that in a one-on-one conversation, just in a moment.
Yeah.
But tell him he's doing great, and it yeah, he can make mistakes.
You can make mistakes. I
Yeah.
think this is also to our listeners who are perfectionists that you can
Oh,
make.
you hit the nail on the head. Yeah, I grew up a perfectionist, and I'm still trying to unravel that.
It's hard to unlearn it,
Yeah.
though. It's a journey. I think I'm also a perfectionist, so I get to a point where I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to go with it. Even with the podcast, I meant to start the podcast in January. I only started in August because I I needed it to be perfect. But then I realized, oh shoot. I am losing time. The year is almost done, and I have not done it because I'm just thinking, oh, there's going to be a perfect time, which will never come, which will never come. There's probably there's going to be a perfect guest. There's going to be a perfect way of asking these questions. There's going to be a perfect this. So thank you for sharing to our listeners that um, just surrender and show up.
And do it if that's what you want,
Yeah.
and don't do it if you decide you don't want to do it.
Mhm.
But recognize what you just said is so profound for me as well. Part of the reason why I wanted to participate here is to see what you do with your podcast, because I kind of want my burnout mental health men's thing to be in the same type of medium,
Mhm.
and I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And I've spent months like you spinning my wheels, imagining how it could be if I could make it right.
Yeah.
And it's so difficult to overcome perfectionism, and you're not alone. I
Yeah.
mean, so many of us, so many of us learned to base our worth and our acceptance on this expectation of perfectionism, and nobody actually expected it, but we didn't know any better.
Yeah.
Um, so a lot of the things that I've been studying and thinking deeply about in my own life is like, where does that come from?
Mhm.
Um, we can go there if you want. You brought up my family heritage, so I'll jump into that, I guess. My dad grew up in Zimbabwe,
Yeah.
and his father moved to Zimbabwe after World War II from England.
Mhm.
Uh, Now that I'm almost 40, I sometimes hear my dad speak about how fortunate he is that he went to college, because
Yeah.
he was a screw up in high school. And I call him out and I say, whose voice is that says you were lazy in high school?
Yeah.
Um, for me, it's the same voice that whispers to me that I have to be right in order to be approved,
Mhm.
right? Um, so I think what we're getting at, and I have very few memories of my grandfather who moved to Zimbabwe. We were talking about perfectionism.
Yes.
You're never going to get it right. My question has meandered, uh,
Mhm.
or my answer to your question has meandered. I don't think you even asked a question, but whatever it is that urges you to be perfect is the thing that's keeping you from doing what brings you immense joy. That's what finally breaks the curse,
Mhm.
is when you realize that regardless of how it turns out, regardless of if it's perfect when we're done, I'm going to enjoy this podcasting process.
Yeah.
And I think actually once you find what that is, where you're willing to say, it doesn't matter if it works, I still
Mhm.
want to do it. That's when you've finally found what your true element is too.
Yeah.
Um, so for instance, let's try to make this about work and the marketing processes that we're trying to define, right?
Mhm.
I'm so convinced now that it won't work and I don't care anymore,
Yeah.
that now I can approach the things that I'm doing and say, it's that's just what the work
Yeah.
is figuring things out. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So whereas before, in the perfectionist mindset, it's, well, what does the data say? Or, well,
Mhm.
how have we done this in the past? Because that can never be wrong.
Yeah.
But if you approach your work, whatever it is, if it's finance or if it's nursing or whatever, if you're so caught up in the perfectionist mindset, then it can be exhausting. And that's where burnout comes from for a lot of people, at least in my experience. But if soon as you learn to say, I'm going to actually really get a lot of satisfaction out of figuring this out, then that's probably where you should be spending your energy, because that's what doesn't drain you anymore. That's what uh, transforms your perfectionist mindset to say, whatever happens, it doesn't matter. What
Mhm.
I'm going to do is what I feel like I ought to do.
Yeah.
Uh, that's so freeing. Um,
It's real.
and you don't have to feel that every day. That's a
Exactly.
perfectionist mindset too, right? It doesn't feel that good all the time. Sometimes I show up and it's like, "Ah, another freaking Tuesday. And the perfectionist in me beats myself up because it's like,
Mhm.
oh, you shouldn't feel that way. You're really lucky to be in this job,
Yeah.
and they're paying you a lot of money. They deserve more of your best effort. And it's like, well, no, they deserve someone who keeps on coming,
Yeah.
make things better.
Hmm.
And that's where um, it really depends on where you're at. It really depends on how respectful your company culture is, whether you get to do that or not. And I found a company that really embraces the mindset of continuous improvement.
Yeah.
It is a Japanese company. We use the term Kaizen all the time.
Kaizen.
And that for me was such a huge part of my perfectionist transformation
Mhm.
was I even read or I did an audible audiobook of the Toyota Way. I think the second edition is free for Audible subscribers.
Okay.
And to someone who comes from a perfectionist mindset and a perfectionist upbringing, continuous improvement sounds exhausting, right?
Mhm.
Maybe not. That's how I perceived it at least. But then it was no, continuous improvement is acceptance of what is and the realization that you can make small changes over a long period of time.
Mhm.
And if you don't enjoy that, then don't do that.
Then
But
doing.
if you are trying to escape perfectionism,
Yeah.
that's the process.
That's.
That's that for me has been incredibly meaningful in my career, which is again another reason why I say I didn't never think that I would end up here, but I needed this job and that insight at this time in my whole human journey. You know what I mean? Sorry,
That.
very very random thoughts, stream of consciousness.
No, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing it. And what I'm also picking is you never know until you try. Because like when you're on the other side, you're just like, but when you try or when you get to it, when you're on the other side of perfectionism, you're just holding to self or wanting to be waiting for it to be perfect. But when you try, that's when you realize, oh, it's actually fun or it's actually doable and you
Yeah.
actually get to do it.
Yeah,
Mm.
I think that shows up in a lot of popular you know, popular quotes or whatever from whatever inventor it was that says like there's no failing, there's just learning, right?
This is learning. That's a good one.
Thomas Edison, I didn't fail at making a light bulb. I found thousands of ways not to make a light bulb, right?
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, I think that type of wisdom is so universal that you could ask any other podcast guest after me, and they would probably tell you a similar story.
yeah, that's so true. Thank you so much for sharing and for being very authentic with us. Um, my other question will be beyond, okay, do you like reading books? You said audiobooks. Do you like reading books? What are you currently reading?
I was not an avid reader. It sound it's it was not my thing. I grew up as a kid watching TV and playing outside.
Mhm.
Um, but in the job that I'm in now, I haven't moved, or I didn't move for the first year, and I was commuting an hour and a half away
Mhm.
uh, 3 times a week. So very lucky that I have a hybrid schedule.
Mhm.
Uh, Sometimes lucky that I have a reliable car. I said sometimes very tongue in cheek,
Yeah.
but I put on audiobooks with Audible and I said this $15 a month is going to keep me moving forward. And if nothing else, uh, yeah, I think I've done 45 or 50 audiobooks in the last 12 months
Wow.
on things that I've talked about throughout this, right? On topics of addiction and mental health,
Yeah.
uh, some classic novels, Mark Twain,
Mhm.
on business and leadership. and man, some of them have been just brought me to tears, and others I was like, not another one of these. I'm not going to go back to that author again. Um, the perfectionist in me
Mm,
tells me that I have to finish what I start. And for the first time, just like last month, I stopped a book that I was reading, and I talked about it with my therapist too. I won't mention what the book was, but it was like, yeah, this book is not helping me at all. um, yeah. So I'd be happy to talk about any of those. The From that last year of reading, I think some of the ones that are most impactful that I've read. Um, One of them came from a recommendation that was in our foster parenting group here
mhm,
in this area. It's called "The Body Keeps the Score." It's great for anyone interested in trauma or figuring out what's going on inside them from their past. It's not. It's very scientific. It's kind of the survival mindset or the survival instinct brain explained in lots of different ways. With some of it's very heavy, so uh, trigger warning, I guess, for anyone who gets into it.
mm,
That one's "The Body Keeps the Score" was really impactful, and along the same lines. There's a book about addiction that was written by Dr. Gabor Mate,
okay.
um, called "In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts," and
Mm,
that one was earth shattering for me. Um, his mantra, if you look up any of his videos, is don't ask why the addiction, ask why the pain. In every case, addiction is an anesthetic for emotional pain.
wow.
And when you start to get curious about where the pain comes from, is really when you start to empathize with yourself and with, uh, yeah, he talks often about, you know, childhood trauma, complex trauma for some people that's not an identifiable instance of something horrific. But in a happy tone, right? Those are pretty heavy ones.
Yeah.
Uh, there was a book called Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara.
Uh-huh.
He's a restaurateur and now a consultant. He went to the same school that I got my MBA from, which is Cornell University, and they have a world famous hospitality, the hotel school there.
Uh-huh.
And he went to Manhattan and he started managing restaurants in Manhattan. And when he got to where he thought he wanted to be, he said, "We're going to make this the best restaurant in the world, bar
Mhm.
none." And he did it in a matter of a few years, before like age 30, I think. Um, but the way he tells his story was so impactful, so meaningful. He talks about, his dad growing up, his dad worked in the restaurant business as well.
Mhm.
He talks about the death of his mom, and he talks about a dinner that he had with his dad that just really made him happy.
Yeah.
He talks about making his guests happy, and he talks in really insightful ways about empowering his people by delighting them as well.
Mhm.
So that's one of the best books that I've read on leadership and coaching and how to spend your money in small ways. Like if you're stingy with 95% of it, you can go berserk with 5% of it. And in the restaurant industry, that shows up in the surprise and delight kind of
Yeah.
thing. Anyway,
Mm.
that book like completely changed my perspective on what you do as a marketer, or
Yeah.
how to be a good leader.
Mhm.
Um, those are a couple. And right now I'm reading Infinite Jest, which is a super long book, kind of a dystopian novel.
Oh.
It's fascinating. I can't even begin to comment on it. For the first several weeks of getting into it, I was like, I still don't know what's going on, and I can't even begin to describe it. But anyone who's read it knows that it's
No.
pretty fascinating. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your vast library with us. Much appreciated. Um, Moving on, beyond the title, what legacy do you hope to leave?
Um, I think this gets at what I thought was. Um, I think there's a lot to unpack in the title of your podcast, Beyond the Role, right?
Mhm.
And the answer to that question goes hand in hand with um, my answer to your question of what does beyond the role mean.
Yeah.
So if you're going to ask that, I'm just going to package
Yeah.
those two questions up together.
Mhm.
I think the legacy that you leave and what it means to be beyond the role has everything to do with who you serve
Yeah.
and knowing full well who you serve.
Mhm.
So um, I think for me in previous roles, the crystallization that I wasn't where I wanted to be
Mhm.
came from I don't really respect our customers or I don't really care about their needs.
Mhm.
Um, and and that kind of to underscore the point, like the role in any organization, the role exists because there's a need.
Yeah.
And you fill that role because that need is met by you.
Mhm.
If that need is not met by you, the role still exists. So now
Yeah.
we're beyond the role has everything to do with are you the person who can meet these needs? Do you even know what those needs are?
Yeah.
And do those needs matter to you? Right. Um, so, in answer to your question of what is my legacy, it has everything to do with who do you serve
Okay.
and um, whose life do you make better because of your work providing a service or your work teaching someone something. So yeah, your audience, I guess, in this is the legacy
The legacy.
and the changes that happen in their life. And for me, I work in the material handling industry. We manufacture equipment. The
Mhm.
legacy that I hope to have there is that um, the products that we make are safe and effective, and the companies that buy from us get what they need, right? As soon as it starts to become a burden or a chore, you're not working on your legacy anymore. You haven't found the right who to
Yeah.
serve,
Mhm.
and that indicates a time for a change. Um, so anyone looking to build a legacy, I think, ought to focus on who do you serve, because you don't have a legacy if nobody cares.
That's
and
so true.
and knowing who you want to make care is
Mhm.
the answer to what am I beyond the role and what is my legacy. So yeah, that it depends on what angle you're looking at it from, right?
Mhm.
A lot of us would say, and I would agree, that your legacy in your career means nothing. Your legacy in your family means everything,
Yeah.
right? Uh, I think, yeah, those are the people that you care about,
Mhm.
um, and they'll remember you no matter what.
Definitely.
So outside of that, if you want to create a legacy, you have to treat people like you really care about them, like you're responsible for their happiness
Yeah.
and their needs,
Mhm.
and then, you know, serve them, fail, keep trying because that's your duty, right?
Yeah.
As soon as you don't feel like this is going to provide you with the satisfaction that you are looking for, it probably means that you're not targeting the right people. Those aren't your customers, or you don't understand them well enough and you need to get curious, I guess. Yeah.
Great. I thank you for that because it's also then bringing out what you said earlier on about like getting the question right. So like then beyond the role is getting the question right, and the question is who are you serving? And
Oh
that
well, yeah. I want to. Sorry, I jumped in. I want to underscore something that I think it was your uncle in a previous episode talked about.
Yes.
The answer to this question, he talked about starting with why, right?
Yeah.
Great question, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
not suggesting that you ignore starting with why. Your
Mm-hmm.
purpose, right, starts with the question why.
Mm-hmm.
The why strongly depends on who
Yeah.
answers the why, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not suggesting that this is the answer, but I think it was in your uncle's answer too that uh, you must serve a need, right? And again, this ties a thread all the way back to near the beginning of our conversation. Uh, there's faceless data, and there's approaching the work every day
Uh-huh.
as if you just perform a task.
Yeah.
And if you forget why you're doing that thing,
Mm-hmm.
focusing on who can get you back to your why, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Focusing on who benefits from it, who's going to remember what you did,
Yeah.
that really changes things.
So it's answering the right questions. That's also what I'm picking from the previous episode and also from here that what's the question that you're answering the right question, the who's, the whys, and that also then threads and it becomes a full circle together, like with the whys and the who's of it all. Moving on to the fun segment, I really enjoy this one.
Now we're going to have fun.
Yes.
All right.
Be ready. So these are just pick whatever comes to mind first. That's what we're going with. What's the funniest mistake you made on your first job, if you still remember?
This one, this one's not funny, but I have to share it.
Laugh.
It taught me the most about making mistakes.
Yeah.
And I've used this in job interviews before. So hopefully, a young professional listening to your podcast, can kind of mimic the same thread or the same approach.
Mm,
Uh, and I'll try to make it funny, I guess. A time when I made a mistake and what I learned from it was early in my career as a public relations agency professional. I was supporting a customer, and the lesson was that I needed to not be afraid to share that I had messed something up.
mhm,
Um, our client at that time ran kind of a public outreach campaign where it was basically a traveling road show every
yeah.
other weekend across the whole state of California. And as the account coordinator on that, right, it was my job to book the rentals, to get the radio script to the right radio station, to contact the fairgrounds and get all the contracts available and lined up, and book the hotels for our crew and all of that stuff, right? We had one event that had to cancel, and the fairgrounds double booked and backed out of our weekend, right? So then I had to undo everything for that weekend, right? And I forgot to cancel the hotels. So we had a room block of like 30 hotel rooms, a couple $1,000.
Mm,
And it was maybe the week before that I recognized that those bookings were still active, right? Um, so I contacted the hotel and I tried negotiating with the hotel manager and this and that. And I was like, oh man, I really thought that I was going to lose my job, or said to keep my job, I will pay it back or whatever, right? Because this is the client's money.
yeah.
Um, and I finally went to my boss and told him, hey, I think we're on the hook for a couple $1,000 for the hotels for this event that we canceled.
Uh,
And this is the funny part, I guess. He gets out his phone, and we were sitting in a conference room, and he dials on speakerphone the hotel, and he says, "Are you for real going to charge us for these rooms? We're never staying there again, and we'll be there again like in 6 months. Like, forget you if you're going to charge us for these rooms." And then like hung up the phone,
mm,
and then let me witness that. And it wasn't, "Hey, I fixed it for you."
oh,
It
yeah.
was it was I'm sorry you had to stress about this for so long.
Mm-hmm.
Because he could tell that I had tried to hide it and tried to resolve it on my own,
Yeah.
right? And at that stage of your career, everyone's like, oh, be a problem solver, don't be a problem
Yeah.
spotter, right? So I thought I had done the right thing, but instead, the right thing would have been, hey, we have a problem. And
Mm.
this is kind of back to the Kaizen and continuous improvement thing.
Yeah.
In the Japanese culture, they call that pulling the andon cord, which means stop the line. I have a problem that needs addressing, right?
Yeah.
And it's I need the shift leader to come to the process and see what I'm seeing, right? That willingness to do that came from that perfectionist mindset and never willing to be wrong.
Yeah.
And it was so impactful at that time in my 20s for a boss to say, I don't want you to feel like you have to deal with everything on your own,
So, mm,
but come to me when a problem is still fresh
mm,
and we'll work on the solution together. Um, and what's funny is I haven't had a chance to do that in a professional setting yet, but I do it all the time with my kids, or I'm always looking for that kind of servant leader. So it guides every decision that I make from then on when to admit that I'm wrong.
yeah.
I haven't been perfect at applying that lesson in perfectionism, right? But um,
It's
he,
okay.
he really changed a lot for me that day. I will never forget that mistake
Yeah.
uh, because changed my whole perspective on making mistakes.
I'm making mistakes. Thank you for sharing that story. I
Yeah,
think I had almost a similar, but not with the clients. I because of wanting to solve things by myself. I'm this person who wants to try to solve it first by myself, try to perfect it before I
yeah,
can or I can be vulnerable with everyone else to say, oh, I have failed, because to me, oh, failure is not part of it's not part of the equation. So my previous job when I was back home in Zimbabwe, um, I don't know what I pressed on the computer, and for some reason, I then deleted a file that allows a person to log in, and I logged myself out. I also logged the administrator account out, and my boss
do every
like, "Oh yeah, I figured it out. We have a report that's required in the next 3 hours. I don't know how you're going to do it, but."
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I really do understand. Can you describe the most surprising thing that happened in your first week, like at work?
In my current job,
Any surprising thing or anything that stood out?
it's an interesting question. Yeah, I don't know if I have an answer for that one. Can we try a different question?
We'll skip it. If money were no object, what's one job you would try for a day?
Oh, I remember this question from watching one of your previous episodes, and I have a clarifying question. The answer depends on, am I only allowed to do this for one day? Or
It's, it's just for a day.
there are many things that I could think of doing that I would not be happy to do just once. Um, but yeah, so I think that the answer is still money, no object.
Yeah.
I would fulfill my childhood fantasy of being a race car driver for a day. Put me behind the
Have
wheel
fun.
with put me behind the wheel at some famous track with a full crew and just see how it feels.
Just see how it feels.
But I would love to do that for the rest of my career, I think. We'll see how it goes for a day. And if I
See how
can't
it
make
goes.
it a day, then yeah. Um, but but the reason why I thought that was an interesting question, and I think the clarifying is necessary, is because um, money no object and for one day uh, is almost a false exclusivity, right? Like you can do anything for nothing for one day. That's called volunteering,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
So, and I think there's a real opportunity in volunteering to find what makes you happy too.
Yeah.
Uh, so, yeah, taking the need to earn money out of the equation, that also helps you get to who do I serve and what would I do to serve them, right?
Yeah.
Uh, the money no object thing can mean I don't need to earn an income, and it can also mean I have all the money in the world, right?
Mm.
So that changes things. Money no object meaning that I have all the money in the world. Yeah, freaking racing team. But money no object meaning I can do whatever I want for a day. I've already done that a time or two, right?
Yeah.
Um, I put myself in those kinds of situations. One of the best volunteering efforts that I found for me
Mhm.
is I live very close to Watkins Glen International Raceway. It's a world famous road course. And because I love cars, right? I just love spending time at the track. But I also go with a nonprofit here in this area, and we provide golf cart rides for anyone with disabilities at the track
Oh,
during the major NASCAR weekend there. So I get to spend a whole day just going every which way, picking up people that call for a ride,
yeah.
and then asking them, how long you been coming to the track? You know, where's your campsite?
Yeah.
Have you seen this or that? And um, that to me, again, just feels so good
Mm.
because it's very people facing. It
People.
makes me remember the times in my career where I was just waiting tables for a while, and then got a job in customer service and retail, uh,
Mm.
and I really miss that part of my job.
Yeah.
So that's why I volunteer for things like being on podcasts, is because I love having interesting conversations with people. That would be my answer in a different way. And I've already said this is what I would do every day if I didn't have to work.
Hmm.
Uh, is just, I don't know, go hang out with people at a racetrack and help them out. Yeah. But then you sprinkle unlimited resources in there, and I would be on the track in a race car.
Amazing. What's one job that you'd be terrible at?
Hmm. I think we talked about this when we first met, that product managers have multifaceted responsibilities, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people early in their careers don't know where they want to be because they don't really have the right definitions for things. And
Mm.
we talked about product management and project management,
Yeah.
two very different things. We did talk about that, right?
Remember that.
Um, I have thought more about that because I remember telling you that I am not very detail oriented. Did I tell you that, right?
Yes.
Which makes me unqualified to be a project manager, but I think still qualified to be a product manager in some circles, right? So
Mhm.
uh, I've leaned into that in this current role where I talked about we're trying to define processes, right?
Yeah.
I've tried to be a leader who's like, you're really good at the project management part. I need your help,
Yeah.
right? And then I've also thought more deeply about uh, the sentiment that I'm not very detail oriented. Um, and when we talked, I was like, that I would never tell an employer that, right? I did say that, right? I
Yeah.
think everybody is detail oriented,
Mm.
and it just matters what details you care about.
Yeah.
I care about some details more than others, which
Mm-hmm.
makes me a terrible project manager still in some circumstances. But if it's a project I really care about, I'm nailing every detail,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that hopefully for your listeners is valuable. Like learning to recognize what details matter that naturally get lodged in your brain and you focus your effort and attention on, that's where you belong. Um, So I guess I've only ever seen project management in lots of boring instances or whatever, right? Or um, I think I would be bad at being a project manager with people who don't care,
Oh, yeah.
because that's just an impossible, you know.
It's close to impossible.
And then there's another answer that just came to me, and I've said this to other folks at work too. Forecasting is a terrible job for me.
Focus. Yeah.
That desire to always be right, to
Mhm.
have the exact answer, you can't live in a forecasting realm or
Yeah.
do any kind of guesswork. Um, Maybe that's what I need to do next to continue to develop this anti-perfectionist mindset or whatever. But it just doesn't seem fun for me. I would crumble in constantly expecting to be wrong in everything.
Yeah.
Here's the anticipated margin of error, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Um, would you rather be famous or anonymous in your field?
Um, oh, I can't give a better answer than your uncle gave. Uh, it's better to be someone worth knowing than someone well known. There's your answer. And I remembered that from that episode. Yeah.
Yes, that also stood out for me, be worth knowing. And I'm like, do people that know me, am I worth knowing to them, or I am just, I can't say well-known person, but
Yeah.
am I worth it to people who know me?
And I don't know if there are any famous people in my industry, so there's no point in seeking fame.
Yeah. Would you rather have a perfect memory or be able to see in the future?
See in the future.
See in the future.
Yeah.
Would you rather take a lot of small risks or one big risk in your career?
Um, I think my answer to that question, I'm trying to be um, the exception to the other people that have answered that question.
Yeah.
I have never taken a very big risk. I
Mm,
guess the biggest risk I took was quitting a job that I really liked
yeah.
for a manager that was good in a team that made sense at that time and
Mm,
going to business school. And
yeah.
that risk didn't pan out for me. Business school was great. I wouldn't be where I am now, but my math on that whole thing didn't
Yeah.
account for the pandemic, right? And so I'm still trying to catch up from, uh, my my career path since then has been great, but not what I expected. But I'm at the point in my career now where I've also got kids now. I've got other considerations, and where do I want to live?
Mm,
Uh, but I would love it if someone gave me permission to take an enormous risk, because little risks are easy. You should always be taking little risks.
Y'all being different. Little risks are easy. Would you rather lose all your work on your computer or have to listen to the same song on repeat for a month? That one boring song.
I thought about this question too because I didn't want to answer the same way as everybody else did. But honestly, nothing on my computer is worth that much to me.
Yeah. Oh,
And if I made it, I can make it again.
we
And
can
it might
repeat it again.
it might be different, and it's probably better the second time around anyway, or the third time, or whatever it is. I love listening to music. I won't get onto that tangent because I've already rambled a lot. But um, for sure, nothing saved on my computer is worth all that much.
Mm.
You said my work computer, right? So like family pictures
Yeah.
don't count. Okay, yeah. You
Oh,
can erase everything on my work computer, and I won't care.
just recreated.
Only what's needed.
You know who you serve. Is there any question I missed that you wish I'd asked you today?
We didn't talk much about. I guess we talked. we danced around it, but you asked people about their definition of resilience.
Oh, yeah.
I want to hear what you've taken away from everyone else's discussion about resilience so far.
You're putting me on
You,
the spot.
yeah, we can talk about resilience. I think that's a great question. What
Um,
does resilience mean to you?
I think resilience to me, it means that ability to keep on going despite what is happening, despite what is happening in your environment that is probably hindering or that is exciting. So resilience is that ability to keep on to keep on going and keeping on moving. And I think if you have like a very defined why and you have a defined who you are, that ability to keep on going is easier if those things, if that foundation is laid out and um, this is where I want to go, this is who I am. So despite whatever thing happens in the environment that you are in, you can be able to keep on going. That's what resilience means to me.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Um, I want to try to answer uh, where resilience is found as
Mhm.
well, because that's sort of what I've been trying to bounce back from extreme burnout not too long ago, right? And to say resilience is the ability to keep on going can sound very uh, judgmental or deflating to someone who's not feeling very resilient, right? Just keep going when you don't want to keep going is really hurtful, almost, right? So I've spent a lot of time thinking about resilience. To me, resilience is not just keep on going, but not breaking through
Mhm.
whatever you're going through. I
Mhm.
mean, literally, resilience means um, that you can maintain your form
Yeah.
despite pressure or crushing loads, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't yield at all. In fact, the most resilient things are the softest things. They
Yeah.
bounce. I think your uncle said they bounce back, and I wanted to keep on expounding on that. I found a lot of insight in your uncle's thing. It doesn't mean that you're unfazed by what happens. You
Mhm.
feel things extremely as a resilient person
Yeah.
with uh, with I guess you're not fragile. You don't you become anti-fragile by not resisting things.
Yeah.
The more you push against the load, the harder it is to not crack under that weight. Whereas the person I think who bends but doesn't lose their form, right? Doesn't just is able to resume their previous form. They stay true to who they are or whatever that is. Um, that to me is the ultimate resilience. It's um, yeah, I think that you've probably talked to people who in your previous career just said, I want to give up or I don't care anymore, right? That to me is someone who's broken
Mhm.
and and I felt broken at times in the past as well by those sorts of things. And I'm not the most resilient person in the world or whatever, but I think that I've found that to me, what am I looking for in resilience? Um, the answer probably lies in surrender or yielding or allowing myself to feel difficult things and then resuming what I previously felt before that thing.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, what resilience means, that ability to bounce back and not taking away from people who probably cannot keep on going. So thank you for that definition of resilience.
Hopefully, that allows someone in their career to take a big risk.
Yeah. Oh,
The
yes.
recognition that it can all fall apart and I don't need things to turn out a certain way.
Mhm.
and I'll be okay. You know,
Okay.
that's not that's not resistance at all. That's just uh, yeah, bending and absorbing.
Bending and absorbing. Hmm. Thank you so much for sharing that. And this brings us to the end of our episode. This has been a
We have to
great,
wrap up, don't we?
great. Oh, you still have more, please.
No, I'm yeah. My mouth is dry. I felt so inspired by the questions that you've shared. I hope that anyone who wants to talk about these sorts of things, they can find me, and I'm here for it with anyone in a one-on-one conversation or whatever it is. Yeah, I'm so glad that you asked me because we met and you asked me about product management,
Yeah.
and I said something that you were like, I want to talk to you more, and I'm so glad that we had this opportunity because this is the work. This is what everyone's supposed to get out of day to day. So I'm really thankful for the opportunity to be a participant, a guest. Yeah.
Yeah, we are happy to have you on episode 2. But yeah, thank you so much for coming through and being authentic. You have been very authentic and vulnerable and sharing practical lessons. I think that's also one thing that I'm enjoying with having this podcast because people are coming and they're being authentic with the guests and with myself. And it's quite profound because it's something that is rare with people who are leaders. You'd think that leaders are not humans as we are, or they are not the same as us, or this person has managed to be at this point in their career, or they have reached this level because probably they are different from us. But from the conversations that we're having on Beyond the Role, um, from what I'm learning personally, and I think the listeners can also attest to this, is that we are all human, and these are like the things that I face on a day-to-day are also the things that people who are leaders are also facing. But what then differentiates us is what we do after you've faced whatever you're facing. And what it also then brings us back to resilience and how the ability to bounce back and take those big risks. So thank you so much, Tim, for coming through and for also giving that platform to say whoever wants to talk is can just come through to talk. So for to our listeners, you can follow Tim on LinkedIn, correct?
Sure. Of course. Yeah.
And it's Tim Shaw, TIMSHAW.
Yeah.
Yes. So once again to our listeners, thank you for coming through and thank you for listening. And this is Beyond the Role Leadership Unboxed. Really appreciate you. See you in the next one.